Okay, I think we're good. Welcome. Getting a little bit, it's a little bit late in terms of getting started with the stream, but happy Friday. It is January 17th, 2025. Talking about all things Lovable, an AI coding platform, if you will. So, prompt your way to building apps. And anyways, that's generally speaking what the streams have been about. Again, today's Friday, so I figured what I would do, I tweet. You can find me here on YouTube. If you haven't already, subscribe. Click the subscribe button, of course, and or check out previous streams if you're looking for kind of what I talk about, and see if it's a fit, see if it's something you're interested in doing. If you're dabbling with AI at all for the purpose of building applications, building websites, building landing pages, building virtual pet cams, building, whatever. I mean, that's kind of the question I've been pondering is like, now that you can build an app in seconds or build a website in seconds or a landing page in seconds, like what do you build? I mean, it's not like what can you build because you can pretty much build anything. So it's kind of like, well, what do you build? Like, what do you personally want to build? That's kind of today. We're talking about projects and past projects, but specifically, I wanted to kind of pick up from where we left off yesterday. I was talking about 21st.dev. We're talking about Lovable integrations, specifically Three.js. So a 3D, like getting 3D components into a Lovable app. But today we'll pick up where we left off with that conversation yesterday. And it was kind of leading into how do you get other components? How do you get other stuff into Lovable? To help you with your landing page designs, your website designs, your whatever it is, again, that you're building. Sometimes you want to sort of spruce things up, like jazz things up, make them a little bit cooler looking. Because again, one of the sort of bigger conversations, and my stream doesn't look like it's getting data. Let's do something. Let's pause for a second before I get too deep into this, before we get too deep in this, and let's just make sure the stream is working correctly. Okay, so it says on my stream that it's excellent connection, even though just a second ago it said no data. So I don't really know what's happening, but I'm just gonna pop into my stream real quick, copy the link, I'm gonna share the stream. And that's another reason to subscribe, because I don't really ever know when the streams are gonna break. So if I drop off unexpectedly, if the stream ends, just know that you can find me on X, Graze Reality, Graze Reality, or here on YouTube. So again, good reminder to click that bell thing, notification. I also built out a personal website earlier this week at grazereality.lovable.app, so you can connect with me there. So just in case we get lost, you can find your way back and we can pick up the conversation. Okay, so the stream appears to be working, and what I'm going to do now is just push it out into the world. Let's talk about integrating 21st dev. 21st, I don't really know why it's called 21st. Maybe 21st century, 21st.dev. Let's talk about 21st dev. So it's this website we'll be talking about, 21st.dev. Let's talk about integrating 21st.dev into your into your AI coding projects, into your lovable.dev apps. Let's talk about integrating 21st.dev components. What are these called? Components into your Lovable dev apps. Okay, sure, good enough. Let's post it. All right, so these things, and again, these are just Fridays are going to be a little bit interesting here on the stream, because I'm just going to sort of talk about anything that I've sort of observed throughout the week. So any hot takes, topics, points of contention, new things. And so what I see as I peruse my timeline on Twitter or on X is a lot of talk about like AI garbage, right? And so I think generally speaking, when you get into this lane of using AI, you up until this point, you still have the two sides. Like AI is ripping everything off, and AI is complete crap, versus AI is the next greatest thing, since sliced bread, right? So you have like those two sort of polar opposite positions on AI. Now, I tend to be a bit of an optimist, and I like AI, and I've been using it, and it's allowed me to do things that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to do, right? Things that I've tried in the past, coding, like building stuff. I've got as far as like, WordPress things, but that's like that's where, my limit is in terms of like ceiling technical wherewithal. And anytime I've tried to get back into coding, or learn coding, whether it's Bubble or, any other application, there's always this like really big learning curve, right? And so the great thing about sort of AI coding is you can just naturally, use your natural language prompting, or natural language to build stuff. All right, so then it leads us into, all right, well, what do you build, and how do you make it not look like AI garbage, like everything else out there that's built with AI? Because I see a lot of, quickly built designs, and everybody's like, that looks like everything else. That looks like all the other AI, stuff. And so it's like, all right, well, maybe you use 21st.dev, like a site like this, to sort of enhance your, your website so that it doesn't look so AI. But then this also leads to the question, how much of this stuff do you use, right? At some point, this is going to be too much. You're going to have your website's going to be full of like disconnected animations, like sort of components that are mix like a mashup of all different things. Like, I think there's a delicate line that you have to sort of use when thinking about design, right? So a little bit goes a long ways, kind of like salt, right? Like you add a little bit of salt to your dish. You add too much salt, and your food tastes like doo-doo. So we don't want doo-doo, right? We want to avoid AI doo-doo. So let's do this. I figured for the stream today, since we're talking about 21st Dev, and we're talking about AI, and like whether it's garbage or not, let's try to build something that maybe at first is kind of vanilla, and then we'll spruce it up using some of these components from 21st Dev, right? So that'll be sort of the idea for the stream today. And we'll see how far we can get. We'll go from scratch. We'll just fire up a lovable prompt, go from like a concept that I have, like this concept I have right now is like, let's go with what's hot, right? Let's build out an MVP agency website, right? Let's say we do and build, MVPs for people. It's just one of the things, again, trends that I'm seeing on X are things like, building an MVP. We'll build you an MVP for X amount of dollars, or we're an MVP agency that builds you your, whatever idea that you have, we'll build it for you, right? So I figured, why not? Let's build that, right? So it's Friday. Again, thanks for tuning in. Hope you have a cup of coffee, because I tend to get a bit chatty as I try to fill every sort of silent void of airspace with my words. So it's just kind of, I don't know if it's because, otherwise if nobody's talking, nothing's happening, or just how I feel about streaming. I feel like if I'm not talking, then what are we doing here? All right, so where do we start? I haven't spent much time with 21st Dev. Yesterday on the stream, I adopted this sort of wavy thing, and it worked. So that's about as far as I got. I managed to get these waves working in Lovable, and I was like, all right. So that's where we left off on yesterday's stream. If you want to check that out, and again, visit the catalog. All right, so let's jump back over to Lovable. And actually, let's come up with, I need to come up with a sort of an idea here, right? So if anybody pops in, or if anybody has future ideas for app builds or things that you want to see built in Lovable, let me know. I'm keeping track. If you also visit my x.com/Gray's Reality, I pinned a post that says, if you built anything in Lovable, share it with me, and then I'll try to feature it here on the show, maybe on a weekly basis, like cool projects. But let's do this first. Let's do the 21st dev thing first. Let's build something out, and then maybe at the end of the stream, we'll get into like featured projects, right? All right, so Lovable. Let's go back to Lovable. Let's talk to ChatGPT real quick. I'll pull it on screen here, and then we'll try to think about what to build, right? So let's go. I'm trying to build a MVP agency website. Right, so let's start with like fleshing out the idea real quick. Oh, I don't need this. What is this? Is this Canvas now? All right, so I don't need this. This is not what I want to do. See, so ChatGPT has Canvas now, so it's like if it thinks you want to do something, it'll try to do it. And I don't necessarily want ChatGPT to build this. I want Lovable to build this. So let's actually back out of here. Let's go here. Actually, just help me come up with some ideas. All right, so I don't need it to build it. It's not, we're not building in ChatGPT. We're building in, is it still trying to build? Stop, what are you doing? Okay, go. We're building Lovable, right? So here's a few ideas to help you create a compelling MVP agency website. Use a headline, transforming your ideas into reality, expert web development, branding solutions. Okay, yada, yada, yada. Okay, all right. So one thing also I've seen that's seemingly pretty trendy is using a PRD, like a product research development. What is a PRD? Anyways, so create a PRD for this project. I forget the name of it. It's project requirements document, right? So this is something I've dabbled with in terms of using it as a way to launch new projects in Lovable. And it's the idea that it's going to spec out like the idea, right? So I'll probably just take this prompt rather than the entire thing and let Lovable come up with it, right? Because we want something a little bit vanilla. We don't necessarily want this to, let's let Lovable do the heavy lifting here. I just need a quick and easy prompt to use. So let's use the objective, right? So create a modern, the prompt will be create a modern, user-friendly, and conversion-optimized website for an agency that clearly communicates services. Okay, all right. So here, let's rework can you rework the objective to be more specific to the MVP agency? So let's see if it'll redo that. Okay, there we go. So the prompt's already improving, right? So create a modern, user-friendly website for the MVP agency that effectively communicates core services, builds trust through testimonials, and all right, that's fine. Let's just not get hung up on the prompt and let's just go. So another cool thing I saw this week with Lovable, and another reason to love Lovable. Okay, let's just stop because I just want to, oh no. I stopped it before it completed its thing. Let's rerun it. And I guess we'll just wait for it. But again, if you're tuning in, if you have any questions, let me know. If you have, we're building out a quick MVP agency website. Again, just from scratch, trying to make it not look like, basic boilerplate AI stuff and actually spruce it up using 21st.dev components. So that's the main goal. We're about 14 minutes into the stream. And so that's kind of the jam session for today. But along the way, if you have questions, let me know, because that's what I'm here for. Just learning and building and teaching anything that I've learned so far with Lovable, right? The best way to do this, because again, as we wait for the PRD to finish here with ChatGPT, one of the other conversations is kind of like AI allows you to build things quickly, but does that ultimately mean more crap, right? Some more garbage in the world because it can be done faster. So my take on that is like, you can be done faster, but it doesn't necessarily need to be garbage, right? So just because you can build it faster doesn't mean it's less valuable. Doesn't mean that it's crap or needs to be that way, right? Just because it can be done faster doesn't mean that it equates to trash. So And then what I did was I literally had a conversation on my way home from the gym last night, and it was like, if two people are whittling wood, right? Whittling, the idea that you have a piece of, like a stick, and you're carving it. Can those two people get to the same end result and have very identical results and spend completely different amount of time on it? And then so ChatGPT have said, of course, because one approach, someone can have a totally different approach to getting to the same result, right? Using the tools, their approach, their strategy, their tool set, their knowledge about how to achieve the result. And so, yes, one person could take a whole lot longer than the other and still get the same thing at the end. So if you're delivering the result and it's the same result, does it matter if it takes less time if you know how to get there faster? Right? And so I think AI empowers us to build faster. It doesn't necessarily doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be or will be crap because it took less time to build. All right, so anyways, just wanted to get that out. All right, so create a modern, user-friendly, conversion-optimized website for an agency to clearly... Okay, that's fine. I'm not going to mess with this prompt anymore. All right, so let's just do this. I want to do this thing where in Lovable now you can generate apps from a URL, right? So Lovable just this week says, all right, so if you go to generate.new and then you copy your prompt in, it'll just spin up the app. Right, and so let's try it. Generate.new. So we just need to go to generate.new. So let's go generate.new / my prompt, right? Which is the whole thing that I just put in there. And let's just press enter and see what happens. All right, so there we go. It took the prompt that I pasted into the URL. So it did just exactly what it's going to spin up a new app. And it's going to be like, create a modern, user-friendly. So again, the idea being create a user, modern-friendly, optimized website for the MVP agency, showcase things, typical agency website stuff, right? So that again is what we're building. And then we're going to try to make it look a little less generic vanilla by grabbing some 21st.dev components and enhancing whatever we get from Lovable, right? So let's just wait for this to spin up, grab another sip of coffee, make sure that the stream is working, still working, and so on. Again, happy Friday. If you have questions, let me know, because we're just jamming, we're just building stuff. But if you have a project in mind, or if there's something that you want to build with Lovable, or need help doing it, then let's talk about it. All right, so let's talk about what we got here on the screen. All right, so we've got let's go full screen. Actually, just fire this up in a whole new browser window. Okay, just kidding. No deploy found for the project. It's probably because it's still building something behind the scenes. Let's just make sure it's done. It looks like it's done. So let's try to load it up again. Now that it's been deployed on the URL. All right, so we've got so look, I'm not gonna lie, this is pretty vanilla, right? But it looks like a ton of WordPress themes that could do the same thing, right? And a WordPress theme would take you gotta install WordPress, you gotta configure it, set it up. This was one prompt done through the generate.new URL, literally through a browser prompt, spun it up. And, with a little help from ChatGPT just to sort of define what it is that we're building. We've got pretty much a full-blown WordPress installation like looking thing here. So this is a one-page sort of deal, but it's not bad. To me, this doesn't look like AI garbage. It looks like a plain vanilla WordPress installation, right? I mean, it looks like a basic website, which is, what we ultimately ended up with. So what do we do with it? All right. So maybe want some pricing on there, because on 21st Dev, I saw some pretty cool pricing tables. And this is where I go and I start riffing with chat. So it's like, all right, what else could we add to our MVP agency website? All right, so once I get something going in Lovable, I start riffing with chat. So if you go into chat mode, it's probably my favorite feature by far that I don't know if anybody else has this. I mean, and allows you to use it for free. It's a beta feature, so I'm gonna use it while I can, while it's still, not incurring me money or cost, because it is super useful. And even if it, for whatever reason, does not become free, it is still like the most useful thing that I find when chatting with Lovable and building out projects. So if you're not using it, you should use it because it'll help you create a much clearer course of plan, action, less breaking things, more, of what you had in mind. So it's like, here are some other sections we could add. You know what, let's just say, let's do it because this is pretty thin. So one thing, so let's talk about content, right? So on the page, we've got 3 sections. So if you look at this, you're like, bleh, it's like, it's not a lot of depth here. It looks okay. I don't really have a problem with it. It's clean. It's boring, but clean. The color, the color, is fine. I like the blues and the teals. It's sort of professional, sort of. It's fine. Like, I don't really have a problem with it, but it is boring. So, and it lacks like depth, right? So it's got 3 sections. It's a 1-page website, and that's all there is to it. So let's do this. It says, yes, here are several. Let's go ahead and say, yes, please add, please expand our, okay, so please expand our MVP agency website. So again, because we're sort of building on the fly, this is just a disclaimer, not necessarily the way that I would prompt this. Like, I would do this differently, but for the sake of your viewing experience, I'm going to do it this way so that we can actually see things happen. Right? Otherwise, I'll put a bit more thought into like my prompts and what specifically would make sense for an MVP agency website. Right now, I'm just going, do whatever you want, based on what you think an MVP agency site should have, that kind of thing. All right, so it's going to add it's added some testimonials. It's going to add an About Us section and our process. All right, so which is, generally speaking, some good stuff to have as an agency. Why are you different? What makes you different as an agency from everybody else? So like, and then testimonials, of course, like who else has worked with you? What good things do they have to say? And then process. So methodology is like, again, sort of speaks to like how we're different, right? So, okay, so now we're getting somewhere, right? We've got some cooler looking things going on, right? So let's just look at this. Let's fire this back up in the full screen experience and see what has changed. All right, so it's added more services, but some things that, AI often overlooks is like, all right, so it originally built out, I think if we look, I don't know, are these the original links? Maybe, but so the header links haven't changed, they're still the same, but transform your digital presence with MVP agency. So the headline, for one, is weird, the way it reads. We'll come back to that later in terms of like improving the copy. But we're just building bones, right? Just building out the bones, the foundation, putting down the concrete, that the house is going to get built on, right? We don't necessarily need to worry about the roof tile color when the foundation hasn't been put down yet. So we got the agency stuff, view our work. Do any of these buttons work? Not yet. Does the get started button work? No, not yet. So these are all just placeholders. Our services, that was there before. So this is new, transforming ideas into digital success. Kind of About Us, who, awards, happy clients, pretty cool. I do like the use of, generally speaking, the layout so far. We've got nice balance. We've got the hero section. We've got these 3 core components, 3 services, main services, who, just creating some authority here, what we've done, track record of success, how we work. So this is pretty cool. I like this. These icons are pretty cool. And again, if you were to try to find a WordPress, I speak about WordPress I'm going to talk about WordPress because that's kind of like where I come from. Like, I don't really code, and so WordPress was the closest thing to me to getting under the hood and editing, you know, theme files and modifying, you know, themes for WordPress. And so you spend like an infinite amount of time trying to find the right WordPress theme, one that's fast, loads, not bloated with all kinds of other things, is free, doesn't cost money, isn't injected with all kinds of just garbage code, you know, like, so you spend just a whole ton of time doing that when you can come to something like Lovable and just whip this up in, you know, a matter of, okay, so we're 25 minutes into the stream now, right? Of which like maybe half of that has been spent getting this far with our sort of agency website, right? And so we've got what our clients say, let's work together. Okay, cool. All right, I think we need a footer. I always, when websites get like this and there's a form and there's no footer, I feel incomplete. And I don't know why. It seems like whenever I fire up a Lovable sort of landing page, like it just omits footers. And I'm like, well, it's like kind of like going outside without putting your shoes on. Like, but like, there are people that do that, but most people leave the house with shoes on. So let's build a footer real quick, just to get a sense of like, you know, we're at the bottom. So let's do that. And again, as I sip some more coffee, if you have some other ideas for the agency website that we're spinning up here, just let me know. The idea is that we're going to make it a little less boring by introducing some of these components. But I'm not going to lie. Well, actually, you know what? Look at this footer, right? So we're talking about footers. Let's just do it now. We don't have a footer. Should we do this footer? This looks like a standard agency looking footer thingy. Let's go and look to see if there are footers. All right, so there's a whole, you got landing pages over here. You got UI elements. So within UI elements, you have very specific little, probably effects, you know, like, and of course, if they would load. Nothing like a good demo with no things in there. Let's just go back to footers. Or maybe not. Okay. All right, let's go back to the home page. Where was that footer? Let's see if we can find it over here. Footer, 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 footers. Let's go here, footers. I'm not sure, maybe 21st Dev is just getting hammered with traffic and that's why nothing's showing up here. Oh, here we go. Or maybe it's just because there was nothing under latest. All right, popular. So there's only 9 of them. We don't have a lot of options. Let's look at this one real quick. This one's pretty generic. That seems like we could already just do with Lovable. So let's take this one. All right. So how do you actually get this into Lovable? So as far as I understand it, there's you just copy the prompt. All right, so let's just copy the basic prompt, and then let's fire up, let's see if I can launch a notepad file real quick. Okay, all right, so let's take a look at this prompt. Let's see if we can go a little bit bigger just for sake of seeing it on screen. So we've got the prompt. Now don't ask me to tell you what, how this works, because again, the reason you're probably using Lovable may or may not be because you're not the best coder in the world. You don't code, maybe it's not your occupation, you're not an engineer, you just like designing things, right? So here's the prompt, right? So here's the code actually. So it's the code and it looks like it's got some styling in it, and then you got some naming conventions, and then you've got some libraries, dependencies down here, things that, you know, it's going to require to make this work. And then at the end of it, you got this bit that's like, do not change the components code unless it's required to integrate or the user asks you to. Important, create all the mentioned files in full without abbreviations, do not use placeholders, like yada, yada, yada. So that's the prompt, right? That you copy from 21st Dev. So all these components and things, this is a footer. It shows you kind of like how it's built, like how, you know, all the things that are in it. But if you just copy the prompt, you can see what we end up with. Now, how do we get into our project? So now that we're in Lovable, and because we don't have a footer, we're just going to put it, right? So let's just, again, be a little willy-nilly here and just copy the thing in there without modifying it, just to see if Lovable sort of can get what we're doing, what we're trying to do. So let's just make sure this is, in fact, the thing, footer section. So yeah, this is the prompt, and we're just going to paste it. Let's just see what Lovable wants to do with it, right? We're in regular build mode, not in chat mode. Let's see what happens. Let's see if something starts breaking, or, because again, these are things that I'm experimenting with in terms of like 21st Dev, adding different effects, UI components into, and bringing those back into your Lovable project. So to see if we can spruce things up a bit. All right, what is happening? It's thinking, because it's a fairly large prompt. And so it's like, okay, I'll help you add a footer section to your MVP agency website. Let's create the necessary files and add the dependencies. In terms of what it did, it's still working. You can see the little dot that, you know, is here. So if you want to check out what it did, you can look at the code differences, I believe, the differences. And so, again, if you're familiar with this, you can stare at the code and figure out what it did exactly. But we're just going to take its word that it built a footer. So added a modern footer section with a dark mode toggle, newsletter subscription, social media links, and company to the info website. So what does that look like? Well, let's take a look, shall we? Let's take a look together. Okay, so transform your digital agency, and down at the bottom, look at that. We've got a footer. That's not bad, that's actually pretty good. It's sort of adopted and inherited. Like if you look at this, right? This is not the same styling in terms of font. This font, I don't think matches our project file. But if we look at what Lovable did, it's modified it. And it added, you know, the traditional footer thing down here. So, not bad, right? And so, how far are we in? 32 minutes into the stream. We've got an MVP agency website. We've got some core services. We've got the, you know, building authority. We've got methodologies, how we work. It's got this really cool sort of thing here. I don't know why the Discovery one doesn't have a line through it. The rest of these have a line. I'm not sure why Discovery is missing that. Maybe that's just intentional. Maybe it's a point of design. What our clients say, who's worked with us, hey, let's work together. How can we take it to the next level? And then links, socials, and things like that. I doubt the night mode works. And also, I don't really know why anybody would need to be like in, like, I don't necessarily, dark mode sometimes amuses me because like in this particular use case, like, would somebody really need to be viewing your agency website in dark mode? Maybe if they're like Batman, that might be something they want to consider. Okay, so added the footer. Now let's add something up here. Let's spruce up the hero section because it's kind of boring, right? And it's kind of like, again, we talked about salt a little bit earlier, but in terms of seasoning, I think we've got some good bones here, right? So again, to me, this does not look like all the other agency, you know, AI garbage out there. It's already coming together pretty well. I think a sprinkle of some like touch, some animations, maybe something cool going on here in the hero section might enhance it. And that's all we're trying to do, right? Is just enhance what we already have without becoming a complete like circus act, right? So let's go back to 21st Dev. And let's go see if we can explore the hero section, or let's see, landing pages, announcements. No, not announcements. Let's just go landing pages. Let's just go back to the homepage actually, because I don't really know how to browse this website really just yet in terms of actually hero section. Okay, so let's see, what should we build? What should we try to emulate. I like this sort of like, if you see, again, if you, nobody's here. So I would ask what we should adopt in terms of a pretty cool hero section. But let's see, a hero with a mock-up. Sure, hero with a mock-up. What does this look like? So we got build AI-powered apps in minutes, not months, and it's got like a thing. Do you think that would work on our landing page? Do you think that would work here? It's similar idea, similar like notion that, you know, build AI apps, let's just see what it does, honestly. Let's copy the prompt again. So we're just gonna copy that, and then we're gonna blast this in here. And again, rather than think about this too much, let's just go. Let's just go with it. It's Friday, so we're freestyling. It's Freestyle Friday, and we're gonna see what comes about. Worst case, we just hit restore, we jump back, try something else if it doesn't work. But so far, I mean, the footer implementation I thought was pretty good. Like it feels connected, it's cohesive with our sort of visual identity that we've crafted so far, and I would say it's pretty solid. All right, what do we want to do? We're just waiting for it, and it's gonna like hopefully do something here in the hero section that enhances this top thing, you know, like gives it a little bit more life, right? I think a picture, an image would be cool because it would draw your attention to it, other than like some basic words that don't even make sense at the moment. Transform your digital agency presence with MVP agency. People be like, what does that even mean? One of the things that they teach you in copywriting is like, don't use acronyms. People don't assume that people like understand acronyms. All right. So what did it do? What do we have here? We have something. At least we don't have errors. So far with the implementation, it's not like we're running into conflicts with we're not running into conflicts with the compatibility or the integration. It's just sort of doing it. It's adopting it, it's adding whatever dependencies it needs, and it's sort of just doing it. So what did it do? It added a hero component with a mockup to the project. Display animations, a glowing background effect, components fully responsive, etc. All right, so here's your big image. Here's the big image, and here's what we got, which I don't like, but we'll talk about how to address that. So it did the thing, right? So it did the thing that's here, the 21st dev component. I'm not mad at it. Like it basically implemented this. We clearly don't have the screenshot. You know, it doesn't know what screenshot we wanted to use, but we can do things like, let's use a royalty-free image for the screenshot. So again, if you're looking for ways to sort of, as you do this, now again, this is as you're building, clearly you have your own assets, or you would, you know, if you're working with somebody, they have their own assets, they have pictures of things that you would want to use. Or if you're the agency, that you would make the asset, right? So let's just say for the mockup, let's just use royalty-free image, right? And let's just see what it does. What I don't like is it changed the visual identity. Like we've got clashing styles now, right? So yes, it's sort of like tweaked the hero section, and it's much more, it's just bold, right? It's just, you know, it's a sort of bold thing that's dominating the page now. See, so now you've got, now we've got a royalty-free image now. So it's not just like a blank looking slate like this, right? And so if you're looking at this before, you're like, what is that thing? It's just a placeholder, right? So now if we reload this, we've got transform your digital presence with MVP agency. We craft exceptional web experiences, build powerful brands. It's like generic, you know. I'm not going to dispute that those sort of statements are uber generic, like super generic, but we haven't talked about copy at all. That's a completely different thing that needs to be crafted, but it can be crafted later. I think, again, building foundation, right? Building it up and then adding, like, you know, filling in the drywall, putting up the walls later, right? So I like this part down, and I do like what the header was doing before. It was just boring, right? But this is a bit much, personal taste. We added too much salt. We just over seasoned, right? And it's just dominant and it just way too much space. So I would literally take those thoughts and be like, go back into the chat mode over here. Like, I think the new hero section is completely dominant and overwhelming. Can we tame it down and match the visual identity? Another word that, as you work with these programs more often, they'll start using language that maybe you haven't heard or you're not familiar with. But once you lock in on the thing, the way that the LLM or the way that, you know, designers would or engineers would typically use the language, then you can talk to it using the same language and probably get better results, right? So right now I think it's just too much. So we're going to be like, can we, pump the brakes and modify this. So we brought in the component from 21st Dev, but this is too much. It's just way too much. Now, usually if you oversalt or overseason your dish, you got to throw it out. But the good news with AI coding, you can save it, right? We can either restore it, go back to what we had and start over, or in this case, we're going to try to tame it. We're going to try to actually pull it back. So this may end up just being like pouring water into your dish and just like trying to salvage it. And it may not go anywhere, but let's give it a shot, right? So I think the new hero section is completely dominant and overwhelming. Can we tame it down and match the visual identity of the rest of the site? Right, so right now I just need to come up with a few ideas. So I'm asking it to sort of like think about it for a second, think about how we could do it. And again, chat mode is definitely the way to go for me. And I've had the best experience using it. So it's like looking at the hero section, I understand your concern. There are several aspects that could make it more harmonious. Color scheme, yes. Sizing and spacing, yes. Typography, yes. All of the above, right? So let's just do it. My coffee's getting cold and we're quickly approaching an hour, and I like to keep these streams under an hour. So we'll just see how far we can get in the next 15, 20 minutes or so, and then call it there. But hopefully by then you have kind of a good understanding of like how you can tweak components that come in if they don't quite fit. Like the footer worked really well, I thought, seamlessly with our existing design, but this header design is just too much. All right, so yes, let's make it more harmonious with the rest of the site, right? And so I literally looked through a piece of the prompt or so in chat mode, like it hasn't made any changes. I will look through and try to identify a core concept, right, that it is attaching itself to. So, and that I want it to do without giving it too many like restrictions, right? So oftentimes when you're in chat mode, it's like, we could do the color scheme. We could do the sizing and spacing. We could do the typography. We could do the visual hierarchy. We could do the layout. And if I don't really want to think about it, I will either be like, what do you suggest? What do you recommend? And it'll be like, based on your existing design, I think we should do this. And then I'll be like, okay, go do that. In this particular case, I don't know what would serve us well or the best of all these, or priority wise, what we should tackle first. And that's why it's kind of like asking me. But if I don't want to do that, I'll just be like, make it more harmonious with the rest of the site, right? So I'll just be like, yes, please, of course, please, make it more harmonious with the rest of the site. I'll go back into regular default mode and let's just see what happens, right? And so again, quick recap, we're trying to salvage, we brought in a design, a header, a hero image that we were trying to fix our hero, just enhance our hero design. But it was a bit too much. It's just overpowering and doesn't fit the identity of the rest of the site. So we're gonna go back in and see what we can do. Okay, so it definitely tamed it down. We've got transforming the agency. I don't like that there's no contrast up here, or there isn't any contrast. So this is where we start getting in the weeds a little bit with some of these changes, but I do, generally speaking, like what, so it kept the picture. It sort of left aligned the main call to action. So before we had like center aligned, everything was center aligned, there was no image. I would probably even go back to the idea that we just put a different image in the background of the header, right? And get the same effect. right now I've got just an imbalance here. There's no contrast between this hero section and the other section. So if we were going to do this, again, two ways that I would either approach this. I would either be like, let's create some more contrast between the hero section and the next section down below, which is our services. And so let's do that. Because otherwise we'll just go back. We'll go two routes here. We'll do this and then we'll back up, restore, and then go with a royalty image for the background of the main image and then go from there, right? So here, okay. And then again, when I'm just spitballing, it's chat mode, right? So, okay. And it'd be cool if there was actually, if I could actually talk to Lovable. So if there was a icon, like a microphone in this dialog box here, and I could just speak what I'm saying, because sometimes I have these thoughts and then I have to think about how I want to type them. So, okay, and I literally will like speak out what I'm thinking. Okay, all right, so great, all right. Hey, the hero section doesn't have enough contrast between the next section down. Also feels a bit imbalanced. So the great thing about natural language is you can give it feeling words, right? So talk to it like with like it feels a bit imbalanced. You may not be able to identify what it is. It could be the image, the royalty-free image, like the image itself that you're using, right? And so in this case, the laptop is facing like the words. The hands are going that way, which sometimes would suggest that you would read that way. But to me, this is like the words are butting up against the back of the laptop. There's just, it's just not balanced. Like the image and the words, something's not working for me, right? This is again, personal, my own personal, you know, as you go through this in your own AI coding experience, like you're going to have to, like it is good to have some idea of design, right? Some semblance of color. You can leave a lot of that up to the LLM, which is what I do often, but then you end up iterating a lot. And then the problem with that is you're eating money, right? So you're using tokens, you're exhausting messages, going back and forth with just trying to like, whereas if you had the language and you understood how to like say what you wanted and convey that in a way that the model understands, then you could get it done with like one prompt versus 10 prompts, right? So, and then we go back to time versus, you know, the same time amount of time for someone else to whittle the same piece of wood to make it look like the same thing. One person takes, you know, an hour, the other person takes like a day, right? And if you look at the results, the same, right? So the hero section doesn't have enough contrast between the next section down, also feels a bit imbalanced, right? And it'll be like, I sort of get your point. Here's some things we could probably do. So let's just see what it's going to suggest we think we do. All right. And then, of course, with all the issues, I think the underlying models, sometimes, you know, it is Friday, so I'm like waiting for the response here. It's a little bit sluggish. And I think it's just par for the course. I think under the hood, Lovable uses Claude or Anthropic. So the same thing, Claude, Anthropic. So depending on the demand on their API from other people using their services, it could cause some slowness, general slowness, or it could be completely unrelated, or it could just be Friday, you know. Looking at the contrast and the balance issues in the hero section, contrast issues, balance problems, visual hierarchy. Yes, so please, yes, come up with a comprehensive solution. So we're going to try this, otherwise abandon and just try to put an image behind the background. Yes, please implement a, please address the balance issues and implement a comprehensive solution. Rather than type that out, I'll just copy it because why not? And we'll just see what it does, right? So we're trying to fix the hero section. again, if you're just jumping into the stream, we imported it from 21st Dev. It was a bit too heavy, a bit too dominant. We were building out this MVP site, trying to make it look less vanilla, less AI-y. And so we're using 21st Dev components and effects and UI stuff to enhance our Lovable project. Right? Okay, and so it shrunk some things. I think it is a bit more balanced, but it's not nuanced enough. Like, I mean, it's like, I feel like I could just, can we just put a, like, sometimes let's just get a little bit straightforward. Like in here too, like there's no separation, this color all blends together, right? Whereas I think we're muddying up things now, right? It's another way I like to think about it. Sometimes you start going down this path and then you're like, fix this, try this. And then you start using these broad stroke like prompts, which again, for the sake of what we're doing right now, I think is more interesting because we can actually see the changes roll out in a live environment. But if I were to do this, I would be much more nuanced with chat, specific components, what exactly it is I'm trying to do. Because then I think what's happening is we're just muddying the rest of this, right? Whereas I thought we started in a pretty good place, like this header, you got the contrast, it's balanced, our services, there's a clear delineation between the hero section and the services below. We got how we work. I would like some separation between what our clients say and this bottom section. So right now it sort of blends together all in the same background. I would like some separation there. Yeah. And now we're at a place where we look like this, which I think we're generally speaking starting to go in the wrong direction. So sometimes, like it's okay. Like I think you could still salvage this, but maybe not what we want to do right now. Actually, let's see. Yeah, no. Let's just go back and do something simple. Let's go back. So just again, just for a demo, you can go back into time, which is great because once you're in here, we could look at the history and be like, all right, refactor, added the hero components, add footer dependencies. Yeah. So we probably want to go back here, right? To where we added the footer. And, oh, actually this is pretty new. So I didn't realize. So now you've got this restore option, but it's like previewing. So it looks like it is jumping back in time, which is cool because you can kind of see, all right, hold on. Okay, so this is new. I don't think this was here before. So good job, Lovable, if this is in fact new. I could be late to the game, but as you work through, like it was sometimes hard to figure out like where things went sideways, right? Or what where you're currently at with the project. So as you click these now, you have previews of these changes. So we went from, again, the kind of core experience, the very first prompt, which was this one. You got, a sort of bare bones, like 3-section website. You've got then expand it. So now we've got expanded sections. We've got, this section's new, methodologies, testimonials, that's new. And then we added the footer component. So now we've got header, services, authority, methodology, testimonials, form, and a footer, really slick looking footer that we imported from 21st Dev. And then we got a little crazy, right? Then we went with the huge header hero image, placeholder with the mockup, that kind of thing. And then we updated the mockup with royalty-free image, but it was still just overbearing, too much, too big, too much space, right? And so we're like, let's simplify. Let's try to find a better balance. So we shrunk it down and then, ended up here. And then now we're getting a little bit more nuance. So if you see the difference between here and here, it's going to be subtle, but significant. So we'll click on this next one, current. So again, previous, current. Not a whole lot happened there. But honestly, I don't like where we ended up at all, really, with the hero stuff. So I'll go back here, which is where we left off, and I'll restore it. And so it's going to revert the changes, and then we'll be right back where we left off, where we can then pick up, like I said, where we left off. So if you scroll back down, now we're restored back here, and we've got this our original header, right? So now let's just do something to wrap it up. Let's just say, can we use a royalty free image for the hero background section? So go back into chat mode. And this will sort of, like I said, from here, at least now you have maybe a sense of how you can import the 21st Dev components, what you do with them once you're in Lovable, to tweak them or abandon them. Because like I said, I like the footer, but I did not like the hero design. So it's like, yes, I can help you with the thing. Let's make it, I would like to make sure the image, the visibility of the image is minimal, so it doesn't detract from the design. All right, and so sometimes if you think about putting an image in there, then like all of a sudden, boom, like it again overpowers the messaging. And so what we're going to do is just say, hey, I want this to be super minimal. So it's going to be like, all right, let's use a gradient or an opacity or a layer thing. All right, let's go ahead and implement. Let's implement or let's proceed. Let's implement, let's proceed, whatever. Either one seems to work. Let's implement and ensure that the text and call to action remain the primary focus. Right, so just as a friendly reminder to the LLM to do the thing that it is that we just talked about. Again, I don't know if that's actually doing anything, or I could just be like, just do it and it would remember. But I like to play it a little bit more safe so it doesn't destroy anything else and make sure that it's specific to what we just talked about. So I feel like if I just read it back to them, to the LLM, then it's like, okay, then I'll just do that thing. Do we have an image? Yes, I'll implement a subtle. It must be super subtle because I don't see anything back there. Let's load this up and see if there's in fact anything in the background. Oh yeah, I see it. It is super subtle though. It is really hard to see on screen, but you could probably see there's some like waves going through there. You know what? I got it. Let's do this instead. Let's bring in like a background element in the header section. And let's go with, I don't know, gradient, not the waves. We already did the waves. Particles, nah. Popular, borders, announcement, backgrounds. Yeah, I kind of want a background in there. Interactive waves, oh, edgy, an orb effect. You know what, let's do the orb effect. It seems like the most popular, so let's do this. Let's go back actually to where we left off. So, well, you know what? For the sake of time, let's just plow ahead like a snow plow, right? It's wintertime, right? So let's plow ahead. Ooh, but this time I didn't specify the header. So maybe we shouldn't plow ahead. Maybe we just drove the plow off the road. But let's see. Let's just see what it does. Honestly, sometimes part of the thing about Lovable is just the surprise that you get after a prompt. Even if you messed up the prompt, or even if you didn't specify it. Like, at this point, I don't think it understands that I want this just in the hero section. I think what it's going to try to do is somehow like create an orb effect like all over the place. Could be wrong, but okay, I don't know that it did anything. So let's just check over here. Yeah, it can't. I don't really see that it did anything. So you know what? Let's just do this. To wrap up the stream, let's go back. History. Enhance the text to call to action focus. No. Fix balance issues. Nope. We want to go back to this, right? We want to restore here. This is, I think, where the best version was. So let's just jump back in time again. We'll jump back in time, and then we'll try this one more time. See if we have any success. If not, come back and join me in another stream, and we'll talk about this again. Chat. Okay, so let's go back to chat. Scroll down to the bottom. All right, let's go back, make sure that we got the right prompt. So interactive orb effect. All right, so what is this doing? I have no idea. But let's copy it and say, can we implement this interactive orb effect into the header hero section? All right, we're going to copy the prompt, try it one more time, and see if we have more success with guiding Lovable. Taking the prompt from 21st Dev, again, with the idea that we want to somehow spruce up the hero section and maybe add some like effect, right? So it's the first thing people see above the fold. So it's crucial that your copy, as well as any sort of thing that you want people to pay attention to, resonates and connects with your audience, right? So probably good idea to spend time at the top part of this. Whatever anybody's going to see first is probably a good place to spend time on. All right, so actually it did it. So we got an orb up there now, but it's completely off balance. It's like glowing above the container, but at least you get the idea, right? Should we try to tweak it? Should we call it a day, or should we try to adjust this? I think at this point, again, getting into the weeds, but what I'll probably like to see is us use a different gradient. So maybe some of these teals instead of the blue, because like the blue just is like, where did the blue come from? I mean, it's sort of in, we've got the blue here, but like it doesn't really match. I feel like it doesn't match, but it does make this a little bit more interesting. But I don't like the fact that the orb itself is flying above the header. I would prefer to have it like sit right below the main CTA, or maybe the buttons are just below the horizon of the world. So it's kind of like now we've got this feeling, a different feeling. So this conveys a different feeling, which is cool. But it still needs to be adjusted. Not something we'll spend time doing now, because we're about an hour into the stream. But at least now, hopefully, you have a good understanding of how you can bring in 21st Dev components, how well they work with Lovable. And for the most part, it was just copying and pasting them. The footer down below, so if we close all these, because there's a whole bunch of different versions that we've ran through. But let's open this up and actually see if we go full screen, if the orb changes, like in placement. So it's still too tall for what I want to do, so we'll fix that later. But the footer was imported pretty much prompt, just copy and pasted the prompt for the footer. And that seemed to port over really well. And then the hero section, we just did the orb section. So again, not bad. I would not call this, I would not consider this, based on how far we've gotten in an hour from nothing, from from literally using the new generate.new feature from Lovable to this, which is not bad. Honestly, not bad. Like I know kind of what it would take to pull this off in WordPress. That's my experience. So relative to my past experience, this would have been a process. I don't know. I would not get this far in an hour for sure, trying to set up and install WordPress, find a theme, tailor the theme, adjust the content, add the copy. Yeah, that would have just taken, that would have been a lot longer project. So there we are. An app in seconds, another app in seconds on this Friday. Oh, let's just talk quickly about, because I said I would, because I like keeping to my word. There's if you go to Twitter and find me on find my profile, I pinned a comment at the top, and it said, it basically says here. I'll just bring it on screen. So if anyone wants to share your Lovable project, let me know, drop an app in the link below, and then I'll feature it, showcase it on my live stream, right? So Skipster Dev said, Shipmate, productivity platform purpose built for indie builders, right? So let's see what we got. So again, built in Lovable, Shipmate.diy is a productivity workspace purpose made for indie builders, right? And so this is a project built in Lovable. I have a tendency to do this because, again, landing pages are sort of my jam, and if I was looking at this as a user experience, the animations here are a bit like, I don't know what they're doing or adding to the user experience. They're just floating and getting a bit kind of confusing. Like if I roll over this, like I don't know what the behavior is supposed to be. But let's just talk. Before we get into it, let's just see how this thing plays out. So we scroll. We got rough ideas into project plans, create tasks faster than ever, manage multiple projects. So at this point, I feel like there's a lot. Sorry, I cannot help myself. I would like to see less space or somehow manipulate the space a little bit different. Some of these are a little bit more subtle, these effects, which is fine. But I feel like there's just a lot of wasted space here. And then you've got some panels down here, which is fine. This is a bit neutral, this is where I think you can bring in some of those 21st components and sort of enhance these numbers, 1, 2, 3, and they get started. And then you've got a pricing table, which has pricing, and then a fairly stripped down and minimalist footer. So anyways, yeah, so that's the idea. I think this is pretty straightforward. It's got a sign in. So I guess this is one place for all your voice notes, ideas, projects, tasks, a lot of different things. The productivity workspace for Notion, Trello. Shipmate is a custom design for leaner, hungrier, restless solopreneurs like you. So turn rough ideas into projects, create tasks faster than ever, easily manage projects, get on top of software, reflect on success phase. So I feel like I'm doing this as I'm sort of descending. And then mission control, I don't know what this does. I guess there are pictures, but once you roll over, you can't really actually see any of them. None of these are big enough for you to get an understanding of the interface. I'm confused at this point. So I'm not really sure what it does. I have a sense of it because there's a comparison to other things like Trello, Notion, but I'm not sure how it's better than the current solutions on the market. So anyways, but just again, if we're just talking about projects built in Lovable, or this is completely built in Lovable as far as I understand it. So nice work, Skippy. Thanks for sharing. And hopefully you don't find those words as, or my thoughts about the project as insulting in any way. It's just, if you are looking for improvements or ways to improve it, those would be my suggestions. But Shipmate. So again, if anybody else has anything else they'd like to share, not that encourages you to do it, as it just sort of tear through the website, but I'm looking to do this more often. So this is the first week, and as more projects roll in, and as I find more stuff on the timeline, on Lovable's timeline, any cool projects that come up their way, I'll be taking a look at too, hopefully on Fridays. So, all right, that's it for this Friday. Hope you have a great weekend. I typically stream Monday through Friday, so subscribe here on YouTube. Find me on Twitter, on X. Otherwise, keep building. Build something cool this weekend if you have time. If not, it only takes seconds, right? So, apps in seconds. Lovable is I like a lot, and we'll continue building next week. So, talk to you then. Connect with me on X. Subscribe here on YouTube, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.